listening to Good Question, a podcast for the curious by Compassion Christian Church. I am Blair. Marcus Johnson is here. And we have a very dear friend as we finish our series on the spiritual giftings. We are meeting with Miss Denise Ritter today. And you guys, she not only oozes the service gifting, but she also is like the matriarch of a family that exudes it as well. So it's interesting because we talked last week. We talked last week about that, but I'm like, also, this is just another example of it. Okay, anyways, that's Blair Tangent. But we are talking about the service giftings today, which this one is really encompassing, you guys. So we're going to talk about a lot of things in broad context because we are looking at the gifts of administration, helping, giving, service, hospitality, missions, encouragement, and mercy. So it's a lot of things, but that's okay because a lot of these can work together in tandem.
Sure.
Right? Okay, Denise, let's start with you.
Maybe we'll find out from Denise.
Oh, I don't know.
Right after this break.
Denise, tell us your connection to compassion.
Okay.
And then also give us an idea of your spiritual gifting and how you see it being used in and outside of the church.
Oh, okay. Well, my connections go way back. I started here in 92. Oddly enough, we didn't start serving until around 97. We spent the first 5 years. I know.
Yeah.
We spent the first 5 years on the sidelines, just thinking, they don't need us. They don't need us. They don't need us. You know, thinking we would benefit something with the church or helping them. But once we served the very first time, and from then on, it's just like, why did we wait so long? Why did we wait 5 years to get connected? Mm-hmm. I got so much more out of it than I ever thought possible. Just the joy. That's when I really realized, okay, serving might be what I need to do across the board. It's not saying in all aspects, but yeah, I enjoy serving as a whole.
What team did you guys start on?
Okay, so communion prep.
Oh.
Back in the day when we had the little juice cups and we had to fill
Each one, little
syringe?
Plunger.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was. Yeah, a little plunger.
Little plunger for 250 people. That's how many we had at the time. So we've came quite a long ways. Long journey.
Definitely have evolved.
So then I went to kids ministry because back then, if you had a child in the ministry, you served at least once a month. Well, that once a month was all I needed to know. That wasn't my calling.
Amazing.
So, yeah, I learned. So, for years, I did communion prep. My husband kept saying, you would be really good in the service with the graphics, running the lyrics. And I'm like, no, that's just not me. And from the very first
Moving
time
the transparencies on the projectors. Is that what? Are we that far back?
It went pretty far back. You're telling my
Marcus
age
is
now.
calling her out.
We didn't start all that far apart from each other at
really
Compassion. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we really didn't. So the very first time I tried production, I fell in love with it. I was just like, again, why was I waiting so long to do this? But it was intimidating. I was thinking, I don't have the skills that I need to do something like this. And they gave me all the skills I needed. They God gave me the main one, the serving. And once I had the joy from that, the rest I was coachable and teachable. So it's kind of how I landed up in production. And been there 20-something years now.
Yeah.
Yes. Marcus, can you give people context to Denise's role when she says she just helps in production?
Yeah. All right. So I have a lot of history with the Ritters as a whole. Yeah. My first internship in kids ministry was with Victoria Ritter, now Stewart, who works at our church. And so in many ways, the Ritters have been kind and gracious towards me. In all my forms of idiocy, because then it goes after that to when we were at the Effingham campus. I mean, it's hard to overstate how critical the Ritters were in
Chastity worked with you as well.
Chastity, yeah. Chastity, basically secretly ran the kids ministry. I got all the credit for it back when I was, the kids and student pastor at Effingham. But yeah, like we definitely have long history. But Denise and Ron specifically, when a new campus starts, there are aspects of there are areas of ministry that people are stepping into that have never served in that way, or you're trying to figure out stuff that you've never even tried before, and having the kind of not just experience that Denise brought, but there was a confidence, there was a capability. There was an aspect of this is how I always describe it. It's the whole you got to be like a duck, you got to be like calm on the surface, kicking like crazy under the water kind of thing. And Denise's leadership was invaluable in that season, in every season. But I think it brought there's a unique kind of worth when what you're doing is you're bringing together a bunch of people who want to help this new thing in their community start. And they're trying things out, and they're willing to jump in, but they have no clue what they're doing. Just like we all had no clue what we were doing when we first started.
We didn't have a clue.
It takes that level of patience and leadership that Denise has, as well as the capability that she had. It was really, really critical.
Yeah, she's also willing to get her hands dirty. She'll do the jobs, even if she doesn't necessarily feel like, oh, I really want this.
She cares about it happening more than any of the rest of us do, which is part of the reason why it's so helpful.
Y'all need to be with me everywhere I go.
The gift of encouragement is in here, so there you go.
I can tell stories about the Ritters all day long. I have 1,000 of them, and great love for y'all's family, and so I've only got nice things to say about Denise.
Look at we're starting in such a loving way. Okay, Denise. Obviously, we've talked about your service in the church.
Yes.
But do you see your spiritual gift playing outside of the church, too?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I struggle with sharing a lot of this just because it hits on the personal side. I'm a caregiver for my mother, my dad, and my brother who, I guess, long story short, in May of 19, my mom was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. And then my dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's in November of the same year. And then a month later, my brother was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And that was all within just a 7-month window. And I am still the primary caregiver. Thank God, they're still with me, that I can give the care to them. But it's hard. It doesn't always come with immediate joy. Sometimes you have to do things dirty, get down and take care of things you don't really want to take care of. Other times it's just spending time with them. Like my number one thing I love to do when I go spend time with my parents is to sit and just do puzzle with my dad. Yeah. I love doing the puzzle with my dad. He has Parkinson's, so it helps with his stability and his strength in his hands. But I get so much joy from it. I've secretly recorded him. He doesn't know this yet, so oh goodness. I've recorded him. He hums old hymns back from when he was growing up. Yeah. And I know the hymns and recognize them, but no words. It's just he'll hum them, and I've recorded it. Just down the road one day when I want to listen back, and I know my dad won't be sitting across the table from me. I've got that. So, but that's hard. So serving, I do take a lot of joy in serving with them, taking care of them. I'm not alone in that though. My family rally around me and take care of me to make sure that I'm not burning out on both ends of that as well. So
you talked about this earlier. So when your family went through that really rough season where it was diagnosis after diagnosis after diagnosis, you really felt like, okay, maybe I need to step back from doing all of the things, from serving, to really focus on how I can serve my family in this season.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about what that process was like for you.
So, it takes a mental toll on you after hearing so much negative. And I was serving, like the Ritters do. I was serving quite a bit, and I just felt like I needed to take a step back. I just decided one day, I need to stay home. I need to take care of my family. I need to take a step back away. And that lasted just maybe 2 or 3 weeks, because the longer I was away from serving at church, the further I knew, the more I knew I wasn't where I needed to be. God brings joy and comfort to me. He speaks to me through serving. So he brought me right back to serving really quick and helped me find a balance between the two roles. And now I do it. I've got a rhythm of rest, and that. But I thought, and the math wasn't math, and I thought staying home was the answer to take care, put my priorities there. But it actually ended up being I needed to just divide a little bit, and God took care of that.
Marcus, this story specifically makes me think so much about what we've talked about in previous episodes, where there's a difference between a gifting of it and doing the task, right? Like having the personality trait or recognizing that there are times I'm called to do things for others, right? Where the caregiver thing sometimes could feel like I, as the daughter, need to step into this role. But the feeling the loss of stepping in and serving somewhere else, that's a gifting, right?
Yeah.
Can you lean into a little bit more about like, especially this gifting, as we talk about the service things, a lot of us have to do these in our daily lives. If you're a mom, if you're a dad, if you are just existing at your work, there are things in this area you're going to have to help. You're going to have to encourage. You're going to have to love others well. So how do we recognize where this is beyond just doing the job?
Yeah,
it's the spirit.
It's a great question. I mean, I think that we talked about this in another one where there's the spiritual gift of evangelism that is a fruitfulness thing, but it's not like if you don't have that spiritual gift, you're relieved from like having to share your faith with people or the command, the invitation of Jesus to share your faith with people. Well, just literally open somewhere in the New Testament and then start reading. You'll find something that sounds a lot like one of the service gifts as something that we are called to do because Jesus did not come to be served, but to serve, right? I mean, this is the example, the servant leadership example of Jesus. And even as he has celebrated and talked about why his name is exalted again and again, it's actually connected to his willingness to serve, to humble himself and serve us, death on the cross and other ways. And so like, there's no version of this where you hear this and you go, so me personally, I don't have any of the service gifts as a spiritual gift. It does not free me from the calling and ultimately the joy of serving, of course. That being said, I think that this is an area, these kinds of gifts are one of those uniquely challenging ones in that, as Denise, as she was sharing her story, I could think of a bunch of people whose gifting is in this area. And one of the things that they have particularly challenge with is balancing their life and doing and this is a term that has been grabbed by our culture in a way that we have to be like intentional about what we actually mean by this, but the self-care kind of concept can be lacking, can be difficult, can be challenging for people that have this kind of gifting, not only because it's their own desire, but even the people around you would look at I'm sure specifically look at you, Denise, and other people like my mom who have so much of this gifting as well. And there's a version of like, well, they love this. And so like there's an aspect of going like, I know that my mom loves this. And so people don't do a very good job outside of you of helping you find balance because there is an aspect of going like, but I know this brings joy. At least from my perspective, I could look at people and go, I know that brings them joy in a way it doesn't bring me joy. And so I'm like, I don't. It's hard for me to then step in and be like, do you need a break? Can I do something for you? Can I do a? And so I do think there's nuance and challenge here, and maybe it's an area where seeking maturity in prayer and counsel and talking to other people like a Denise who have more just experience in their walk with Jesus about what it looks like to find balance in these kinds of things. I think it's especially important for people that have this kind of gifting.
Can we talk about something else that I think maybe it's a Blair thing? You guys have heard me, unfortunately, say this so many times, that this is a gifting that often can feel kind of ordinary. It can feel very commonplace, like it is not secondary, but that it is not necessarily like we just came off the power giftings, right? And I'm like, man, to have discernment, man, to have wisdom, that would be stinking cool. To have the gift of encouragement feels different, right? And so can you talk a little bit about how can we have the right vein? Denise, is this something you feel, or is this just a thing that is in some people's heads?
My head is what you meant to say there. Some people.
I'm trying to have grace for myself.
Like Blair's heads.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's not just your head. It's definitely not. I can definitely see where serving could feel like it's an ordinary task, because a lot of things it is ordinary. But if someone with a heart of serving can fill a gap or a role, even if it's not something that it's an ordinary task, cleaning the toilets. We were joking earlier about how his mother, Catherine, back in the day, well, still to this day, well, you'll find her on any special event. She's cleaning, dumping trash and cleaning toilets during the holiday season around Journey
when she is
Christmas.
Literally capable of leading whatever event is going on. Yeah, for sure.
So that's not an ordinary thing for me. Like I see someone that has the gift of leadership and teaching that's doing ordinary tasks. So someone that's not familiar with her giftings could look at that and say, that's very ordinary.
Yeah.
But to her, maybe it's not very ordinary. It's not her number one strength or spiritual gift, but it's definitely one of them. And she may just be filling the gap until someone else steps along inside of to go along with it. But I don't know. It's not just you.
Yeah.
I can see where it's ordinary as well.
Yeah, I think honestly, some in a mysterious way, part of the fruit is sort of the spiritual fruit, the divine fruit that comes from these spiritual gifts of serving, are things like that. Is looking at somebody like my mom, like Denise, people who are very capable in all sorts of ways of being, someone who would take charge or, otherwise, frankly, take a position that seems to have more honor to it in a lot of ways, so to speak. And yet when you see them serving in that way and yet know that about them, that is the thing that brings glory to God. And it is one of the things that can be so beautiful. It's like the scene of Jesus where in the book of John, where it says, knowing that he had all things had been given to him, that he had all authority.
Yeah.
He took off his outer garment, wrapped a towel around his waist, and washed his disciples' feet. That moment is one of going, the power of that is to see somebody who could claim status, could claim,
lordship.
Essentially, yeah. We're talking about my mom like she's some kind of like living saint, which it's both. both literally biblically accurate, but also, but there is an aspect of, because of her history here and because of her position that she used to hold, she could literally walk into any situation and basically go like, you should give me the reins on this. And people would be like,
okay,
yeah, okay, sure. But the fact that she does not do that is often the thing, and in very real ways is the same thing with Denise and many of the other people who have this kind of gifting. You asked me earlier what I was reading because I predicted this conversation, and so I was.
Is that a gifting?
It's just me having had this conversation many times before is basically what it comes down to. All right, so Paul talks about this, and the way that the metaphor in the Bible so consistently about people having different gifts is the picture of a body. Yeah. That, like our human bodies, made up of many different members all working together. This is how we could view our role in the church. Well, what he says is in 1 Corinthians 12:21. He says, the eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. On the contrary, the parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable. And on those parts of the body that we think less honorable, we bestow the greatest honor, and our unpresentable parts are treated with greater modesty, which our more presentable parts do not require. And he kind of keeps going on this, but the interesting thing that he's talking about there is he's essentially talking about the fact that gifts that people have that seem to be less of like the upfront, take charge, point leadership, putting a mic in front of their face or putting a pulpit in front of their chest or whatever, Bible in their hands, etc. That those are the things that might obviously be like the more obvious, honorable things. But actually, if you think about the way we treat our body, sometimes the things that seem weakest are the most indispensable. And so his point is, and he is if you think about the way that we protect, we actually understand the importance of that kind of thing in a human body. There's this similar way that the church, that people of God are supposed to view people in the church who might not come across as they're the person that's going to lead the charge. Yeah. But there's no doubt they ought to be treated with great honor and viewed as Paul says, indispensable because they are. Yeah. We have organs on the inside of our body that are literally the weakest things, on us that have to be protected and covered. But simultaneously, they're like, without them, we would die. Yes. They are literally indispensable. And this is kind of how we should view people with the kind of gifting that y'all have. Or this is how we are encouraged to view that. And maybe even more importantly, and then I'll shut my mouth, even more importantly, in response to how you said that your brain sometimes works with it, this is an encouragement to people with these kinds of gifts that the way that God's word describes you is as indispensable and worthy of greater honor, not less. Amen. And so that's important to be embraced.
It is. And let's stay in that vein. What is the importance of these giftings? I mean, we talked about it. Administration, helping, giving, service, as we've been talking about, hospitality, missions, encouragement, and mercy. When we think about the context of our churches, our faith communities, our cities, what would they be without these giftings? I mean, it honestly is almost like laughable as I think about the question I just asked you. Thinking about the world without these people, it feels hopeless. And like not a lot of stuff gets done or gets done strategically, right?
True.
Yeah. Y'all just put me in the place of like talking about how crucial y'all are. Y'all gotta be willing to say, no, I am indispensable. I feel like everybody look in the mirror, make eye contact with yourself. No, the answer.
Speak affirmations.
I'll take that for a second. That is hard for someone with a spiritual gift.
There we go. That's what we're getting at.
Yeah. I am just put me behind the scenes. Don't put me in front of the microphone.
I literally had to ask Denise in the most creative way to do this because I knew she was going to be like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be on a microphone. I don't want to be in front of a camera. I will sit and produce in the back and tell you how to fix up how you look or how to change the way you're doing this or to make it the best for everyone else. But it's so important to hear from people because this is important for all of us to know and to do, to live out from the example.
Yeah. I would rather be behind the scenes at any given. Give me all black to wear and hide out, and that's where you'll find me. But that doesn't mean I'm a quiet voice.
Yes.
It just means you can't see my face.
One of the things I admire most about you, Denise, is you always say the last 10% that could be uncomfortable, super awkward. It's not easy. And every time you say it, I'm like, I am so thankful she said that. Yeah. I need to hear it. And I need to know that because people are thinking it and somebody needs to say it or to do it, and to have the courage and the boldness to love people in that way, to do that is, I think, one of your greatest strengths and one of the things that I am most grateful for. Anyways.
That's very nice. Thank you. Humbled again there. I'm just like, it's not something that I receive well. I have a hard time receiving the accolades. I don't know if is that a normal thing? I don't know.
It is certainly ironic that people that have the gift of encouragement are not very good at receiving encouragement at times, or not, or maybe self-encouragement at times, things like that. I just when we first started this podcast, or not this podcast, when we first started this topic, one of the spiritual gifts that I called in our betting pool on spiritual giftings, was that Blair had the spiritual gift of hospitality. because even though it's like a non-normal way for it to come through, it being being like an online host or largely the hosting happening through video, it's clear that there's not only a trained and practiced skill set there, but there's also a gifting there. And I when I think about what it would look like to not have people with this gifting in the church, on the one hand, there is the like obvious, you could have from like a military kind of metaphor, you can have the most trained, awesome soldiers right up front doing all the hard stuff. But if you don't have a supply chain behind them, like it doesn't matter. Like it's going to fall apart. In a similar way, the church without people with this gifting is going to struggle to just actually help and serve people. This is Acts 6, when people were identified to go and actually serve the widows and care for them. Literally the apostles, who had a lot more of the gifting towards leadership and power, were saying we need people to be able to do this part of it, or because if we are preaching love and then people are not being loved, we have a problem. And because the other half of it of this gifting is like, what would the church look like? I think it would lack warmth. It just lack warmth.
And wouldn't it lack love in some sense? Like, to me, these giftings are people using, the Spirit is encouraging them to grow the body with their genuine acts of service in love towards others. Denise isn't always doing things because she wants to run the backstage or whatever, but in love, she knows that there are people who need to receive things in certain ways, and it's loving to make sure that that is communicated clearly and in a way that is least distracting and edifying for the entire body. That's not necessarily fun, but it's loving.
I do wonder, especially like early days Effingham, how often part of what you were thinking was a version of, if I don't do this, these goobers are never going to be able to actually, like, this will just be this will be a clown farm is what it'll be if someone's not in the background actually making this stuff work.
I don't think I ever had that thought.
She said, I don't think.
I don't know. The years have shown mercy on my memory.
Turned those glasses rose-colored, looking back at that stuff,
Yeah. There were a lot of great memories there. There were a lot of tough days, too.
Yeah.
I mean, you start something new, and you're just taking ownership of it, whatever it looks like, whether you've got that natural skill or not. Sometimes, I do recall, when I got to church for serving at 7 a.m. or, that some days felt like a job and not serving.
Sure.
I've said, if you've known me any length of time, I'll say work is a 4-letter word. And so if you approach serving as a job, you're approaching it with the wrong attitude. And it's not always easy.
Yeah.
But if you're coming with the correct attitude, you're coming with the right attitude, your heart of serving is going to show through. Not just for you and what you're speaking to other people in the comms or the microphones or anything like that, but to people just visually watching you, quietly watching what's going on in this church. Is this church for real? There's a lot. People will watch before they engage a lot. So,
It's so funny. So Victoria, your daughter, is in charge of our guest experiences now. And you used to do that when you were on staff at Compassion. And what I regularly hear people talk about or remember from when they come to Compassion isn't necessarily a message, but a feeling of, man, those people were authentic. I mean, I've had online guests who've come. This is their church. They worship with us every week, but they don't always have a chance to come and to be in our buildings. And one of them had come for an event we hosted not on a Sunday. And they said they were just met in the parking lot by a couple from the Effingham campus who they were trying to figure out where to go because it's a big old building. You don't know where you're walking. Things aren't always happening. And she said, and without hesitation, They saw me, they loved me well, and pointed me in the direction and walked me to it.
You just come right here with me, baby.
Exactly.
I'll show you exactly where to go.
And she said, man, it was like the moment where I felt like, man, everything I think is true. It is real. It is people authentically living out what Jesus did. And that creates a tangible sense of, man, these people are for real and their hearts are transformed by the hope of the gospel. And the message is seeped into their bones and into their veins, and people feel that. And I think there is a tangible sense of that. Okay. I'm getting on a tangent, but we need to get to one more question.
Okay. I think.
This is often something that people with these giftings can become, they can say yes to a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
They can do a lot of things. For example, there is a man in this room who is behind the cameras right now named David Bovee, who I texted this morning and needed, hey, can you come help do this? And he said yes, because he loves to serve and he loves to be helping hands.
You can usually tell a servant heart by saying by that. Their
yes is on the table
before they know the question. That's how she got me here.
Yeah, say yes, and then I'll tell you what you're saying yes to.
Yes,
yeah.
That's it.
I did. I literally posted it as like, hey, what are you doing this day at this time?
Yes.
Yeah, I need your help. And then it's
exactly
like,
right.
Here I come. And what am I doing?
Yeah.
So how do you
Sit
safeguard?
in front of a camera?
How do you?
No.
Yeah. Actually, I think I'm busy helping somebody else right now. No, but like, how do you determine what you say yes to and what you don't say yes to, and how do you safeguard yourself against overdoing it all?
Oh, it's easy to overdo, but it's easy for me, but it hasn't always been easy. It's come with a lot of practice.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times I'll say yes, and I'm just filling a gap. And if I feel that's a situation, I'm going to find me a partner to bring alongside me and see.
E4E.
I was literally just thinking that. I'm like,
Equip the
equipping
saints.
somebody.
Yeah.
So, a lot of times I'll go to Chastity or Victoria's most of the time off the table because she's so involved
Doing so many
with
things,
everything. And Chastity, it's not that she doesn't have a lot going on. She's got a full-time job and two young kids.
Yeah.
But,
she's busy too.
but she's usually my go-to if I need a partner in crime, so to speak. We did an amazing race adventure a couple weeks ago. We said yes. We didn't know we were really getting into. We kind of made it our own. But anyway.
It was full-fledged, y'all. It was not a little thing.
So
I believe you.
If I'm approaching something and I'm not 100% sure that I'm getting the joy or I'm giving the joy that could come from it, then I'm going to bring someone alongside with me to let's do this together. It might be a joy for them. But if I don't, so someone told me this, and I don't know who did. It's probably Cam many years ago. I don't know.
Right. At some point, it's like best bet is just to say Cam probably said it at some point. Yeah.
But it's bring me your calendar and your checkbook. Back in the days when we had a checkbook, and I'll show you where your priorities lie. And if someone can't look at my calendar and know that my priorities are with God, I don't like the priority of my calendar or my finances for that fact. So I raised my kids to be the same way. The church raised our kids to be the same way. And so I bring Chastity alongside with me, and she partners with me. She says yes before she knows the question, same as I do. And we'll tackle it. If it's truly an act in that moment and not something we're finding joy in, we're going to begin it and we're going to end it. We're going to see it all the way to the end.
Yep.
But along the way, we're looking for someone that's going to take ownership of that. And we're not going to just do it and to be done with it. We're looking for someone to claim it. And then the things that are where we find the biggest joys in, that's where we're connecting and finding, but also we're getting that partner there too. Because my yes constantly could be taking away someone else's opportunity to say yes.
Ooh, that's good.
I don't know if that makes really much sense.
It does.
But
Yeah, there's an old cliche in the church world of 20% of the people do 80% of the work.
Yes.
And the sad part about that is the idea of exactly what you just said, which is that there are many people. You even said that you and Ron started in that position. It's very common for people to look around and basically go, I don't think they need me.
Yeah.
And sometimes the unintentionally part of that is communicated by having people who say yes to everything without having a heart for realizing there are other people who have a similar gifting who also need to experience the joy of a manifestation of the Holy Spirit through the use of their spiritual gift. And that motivation is it's a big deal. It's a big deal to try to hold on and grasp that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. If I'm saying yes constantly, I'm taking away someone's opportunity to get the same joy. And in the process of my constant yes, I'm working towards a burnout. So if by me putting in like a rhythm of rest and engaging and bringing along partners to say yes along with me, it's given both of us balance. And that's why I say it's easier for me because I've been through the burnout and I've been through all of that. But finding the rhythm of rest, partnering with someone that's servant-minded as well.
Yeah.
And giving other people the opportunity to fill the role.
Yeah, dude. Ooh, those are 3 really good thoughts to sit and think about. What are you laughing at?
I just love you calling her dude. We've gone from Miss Denise to dude.
That's how comfortable I feel with her. No, but it is such a good reminder that all 3 of those things are important. You can't neglect one or the other. They all work in tandem to make sure that you're equipping other people to do the job, that you are still being intentional about what I'm doing. And there is still that thing, she's literally taking a rhythm of rest tomorrow, right?
I am.
I mean, it's having those built-in reasons to be able to say, okay, I'm going to recharge really intentionally right now. I'm going to take that space because it's important.
It's super important. If you don't do it, you're setting yourself up and everything around you for failure.
Because we all know people who've served out of an empty cup. Yeah. And it's different than those who serve with a joyful heart and who are being filled, right? I mean, serving fills your cup. It drains other people's cup.
Correct.
But there is a way to serve with a drained cup, and it's not necessarily for the benefit of everyone around them.
It becomes a 4-letter word.
Okay, let's close on this thought. We've been ending all of these episodes, Denise, talking with people who are gifted in these areas. What is the way, if we are not gifted in this service area, how could we love someone with this? How could we encourage them or show them that what they do for the kingdom matters to us? What would be meaningful for you?
Should we bring you our laundry? Is that something that would fill your
would
heart?
Not be
no?
that.
Okay. All right. I tried, Lauren. I tried, Bride.
I don't know. I thought that's a tough question for me. Outside of serving, where I really find my joy is with my grandkids. So I'm a quality of time. I'm very relational. So if you give me a hug, that is a huge gift. In fact, I'm a hugger. You know that. I'm a hugger.
I do know that.
If I'm having a down day or a day that just doesn't seem like me, just give me a hug.
So is Ron, right? Shouldn't we all run up and hug Ron?
He actually is a hugger.
Is he really?
He is.
Oh, I thought I was making a joke.
No.
Ron is our parking team,
Ron's
so
never given
he
me a
needs
hug.
lots of hugs.
Yeah,
right, well.
he does.
He does a lot of really, really great evangelism in the parking lot.
All right.
Everybody,
I learned something.
So I don't know. Maybe,
Coming for you, Ron.
Maybe just relational acts.
Yeah.
A kind word, hug, thinking about you, praying for you.
Yeah.
I tell you, my husband, he's got my love language down pat. He'll send me a text in the middle of the day and says, I'm just thinking about you, want you to know I love you. Things like that from someone on the outside looking in, just saying, hey, I'm thinking about you, praying for you today.
Yeah, dude.
If someone crosses your mind that you know is struggling, just stop and pray for them.
Yep.
But let them know you're praying for them.
Yeah, man, this past week, I have gotten several messages from people that just feel the Holy Spirit was right on time. Like they were the encouragement, the whisper of confidence that I needed. And it's different. When it comes from nowhere, it's not a forced thing. It's not a moment of like, let me do that. When it comes from the random, it feels so different and it hits in a way that is soul giving. And so it is funny how that happens and how for people in this area, I do think your words, your actions mean a lot to them. One of our partners was here for Faith Promise, and they said, the phrase was something along the lines of like, I can't hear what you're saying because I'm so distracted by what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And I think that is true of the people with these service gifts, but also like all of it works together, and these people need to know those things are coming for them too, right?
Should we give everybody each of your cell phone numbers so they can text you encouragement, randomly?
We'll add it to the
show notes.
That's too much. Any final thoughts, you guys, as we close up our service giftings?
So I did not think I would enjoy this today.
She was honest with us.
Yeah, I'm always honest.
And
the last 10% coming right now.
And it turns out I was right. This was terrible.
I know. And it's partly because I like to be behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. I would rather be sitting behind the camera, or wherever. But this was much better. I found a lot of joy in it today. Mm-hmm. Just being able to kind of talk through some of the things that's on my brain, mm-hmm. and as to why, reminders for myself as to why I'm doing some of these things that I'm doing, and reminder for some of the pitfalls that I've been able to avoid lately. Yeah. Even in the midst of everything.
Mm-hmm. It's the journey of it all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So good. This has been honestly so helpful, you guys. I have thought about these podcast conversations so many more times than I should probably count, but if nobody else has enjoyed it, I have. So thank you for joining us with love and curiosity in your heart. Marcus and I are going to be back next month for our final episode of the 2023 year.
The Christmas karaoke episode where we're just going to be singing.
Tune in. We don't own the rights to any of the music, but it'll be fine. Denise will cover us for it, right?
No.
You guys, we are so glad that you've joined us as we've discovered our spiritual giftings, and we hope that it's given you some tools to really be more intentional in how you see them and how you interact with the body of Christ and how you use them yourself. And so thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye-bye.